Hi everyone, hello everyone, assalamu alaikum. Another soul searching podcast, and today's date is 4th June 2020. I would like to begin with racism and what is happening in America, especially in America right now, regarding what that particular police person did to George Floyd was absolutely horrible and terrifying. I mean, how does one or how does anyone manage to put their knee on someone's neck? Is it? Yeah, neck. And I mean, he was saying, I can't breathe. And what I don't understand is the police came to arrest George Floyd, and so they did, for whatever the reason was. So they should have taken him to the police station and put him in lockup, and then, find out, what he is guilty of or not. And therefore, if he was innocent, then he would have been free and he would be home right now with his family. So I don't understand that. Why? I mean, they arrested him, so they should have taken him to the police station. Why was this, I don't remember the name, this police officer, why did they put him on the ground, and then the police officer, pressed his knee against his neck and head. So this is really upsetting and really sad, and this is going to happen again, sadly. And Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. And we have to tell everyone to avoid hatred, because this racism is rooted in hatred. Yeah, it's first is hatred. Like, for example, you have what Adolf Hitler, as he was going through the political ladder in Germany, in the Nazi socialist movement, Nazi. So Adolf Hitler, as he was going through the socialist, what I mean is, before he became the Prime Minister of Germany, of course he began with the example, the Jewish people are the inferior race, and so it seemed there would be hatred and jealousy. So jealousy and hatred, you can package them together. So Adolf Hitler saw the Jewish people, they are doing okay, they are doing good, they worked hard, and so they built up, with their hard work, their, properties and what have you. So, but to Adolf Hitler, he was jealous, and then also he was, he first he was jealous, it seems, and so the Jewish people are like this and the Jewish people are like that, and then of course hatred kicks in, like, oh, I'm jealous of that person, or I'm jealous of this race, and so this is what it is. It's to do with our negative nature factors, and when we actually begin to fail to restrain and restrict our negative nature factors, such as jealousy, hatred, anger, and so we basically do well. We do wrong. I mean, the police officer who killed George Floyd, he absolutely did wrong, but he was somewhere jealous and somehow he was hating George Floyd because of the color of George's skin, and it's this to solution to this jealousy, hatred, and therefore racism would be to see everyone equally. So what I'm trying to say is it doesn't matter what your skin color is. We are all equal. We have to understand, we have to acknowledge and realize we are all human beings, we are all equal. And also, so we are all equal, we should respect each other, and no one is superior and no one is inferior, in regards to the children of Adam, in regards to the human beings. And until we don't do that, this is going, this will keep happening. Racism is basically everywhere, jealousy, I'll give you a few examples. So amongst the, say, Bangladeshi and Pakistani community, and also it's to do with lack of knowledge, and so example, what I'm trying to say is, so a Pakistani young man, say, falls in love with a Bangladeshi girl, and then, and again, Bangladeshi, say the Bangladeshi girl is Muslim and the Pakistani man is Muslim, but it would be very hard for them to get married, because the Pakistani family would say, not everybody, but would say, oh, well, you're Bangladeshi, so I don't want, I can't have my son, marrying your daughter. And the Bangladeshi family would say, well, you're Pakistani, and I don't want my daughter getting married to a Pakistani man. But what they don't realize is, again, languages shouldn't be a barrier, and culture shouldn't be a barrier, and race shouldn't be a barrier, and the skin color shouldn't be a barrier. We are all humans, and we should, respect each other. We are equal. You see, God has made us different, so we can learn from each other. We could, enjoy each other's culture. And it's awesome, isn't it? I mean, if I was only living in, say, in a small village in Bangladesh and ate rice for the rest of my life, or from childhood to until the day I experienced death, then I wouldn't know what pizza is. I wouldn't know what pasta is. I wouldn't know what roti is. See, I wouldn't know what doner kebab is. I wouldn't know what cheeseburger is. and so culture is really, interesting, and you know that's how God made us, different but equal. And really need to we really need to understand this. And I think also, education is important, especially I think people who are in authority. So example, a police officer is in a position of authority, and therefore the police officer should be educated and well informed and humble and, polite and kind, and again, yes, it's a difficult job. Police officers have difficult job, but let's see the problem or problems, holistically, meaning, so how do we reduce crime is by investing in children's education and investing, like making the schools equal. I mean, what I mean is you'd have, like, all over the world, you would have, let's see, so you have the private sector, and then you have the government public sector, and of course the private sector always have better things. So when it comes to education, you have private schools, and so those who can afford, they send their children to private schools, and then those who cannot afford, they just, free, public school, and so they learn what they can. And again, corruption is rooted in greed. The choice is greed, and we have to, avoid greed. We have to avoid hatred and anger and jealousy. Don't forget negative nature factors such as jealousy, hatred, greed, etc. is part of the earthly examination. And it's not a overnight solution. This has to be like a 10-year plan. At least, we have to invest in, educating the young people and everyone really to how to respect each other, to be kind and polite, to show, I mean, I understand a police officer comes to arrest a criminal, but don't forget that criminal is a human being, and fine, arrest him, take him to the police station. I mean, don't kill him. I mean, that's really messed up. I'm trying to understand the psychology of that particular policeman who killed George Floyd, and similar policemen, regardless of the color of the skin, similar policemen in the past who have done similar horrible, wrongdoing, and if I'm not mistaken, this other person, was it called Dylan Roof, who killed more than 8 people, I think, and the police came, arrested him, and because he was hungry, they got him a burger. And then when you compare that with George Floyd, they killed George Floyd. So they killed George Floyd, the particular policeman and his colleagues killed George Floyd because he was black. That's messed up. And of course, that's racism, and black lives definitely matter. I have no words. I am lost for words. It's just so upsetting, watching the news for the past few days since, since the killing of George Floyd, and and of course it's not the first time. This is going to happen again and again and again, and also I don't see any leaders talking about how to bring about solutions to this big problem. One thing is clear. I mean, black people are being targeted and killed in America, especially in America. And leaders, from all walks of life, regardless of your color, you should come together and, bring about solutions. And education is one of them. Reducing inequality is another one. Definitely, that's another problem. And therefore, if if the leaders, politicians can reduce inequality, invest in everyone's education for everyone, and also teach ethics and morals to everyone, then at least there will be improvement. And if there will be definitely improvement. So that was the first part of today's talk, and now I would like to talk about evolution. You see, the theory of evolution states that random amino acids somehow came together, thus violating the second law of thermodynamics, and became a cell. Therefore, this single bacteria, cell, asexual organism randomly mutated and again became more ordered, and has since become more ordered with every mutation. I mean, this is far-fetched. Really, I don't think that's what happened. This does not make sense. I mean, the explanation for this is it's been, so they would say the Darwinist evolution is millions and millions of years. It sounds like a fairy tale, an imaginary, long time ago, millions and millions of years ago. It takes a long time. That makes their theory, well, Darwinists, evolutionists, their theory appear. All right, yeah. So yeah, that's it. If I remember watching an interview, Dawkins, Richard Dawkins, and if you ask him, well, why don't we see changes in evolution now, especially macroevolution? I mean, macroevolution, you cannot observe. No one has observed macro. No one has observed macroevolution, meaning a fly becoming a giraffe, or a cat, turning into an elephant. And you ask Dawkins or a Darwinist or evolutionist about this, and they will say, well, it takes billions and billions of years, and how convenient. Everyone will die, and no one will ever know. And it's just really, the answer is silly. So yeah, I mean, evolution, I mean, there is design everywhere. I mean, there is purpose in everything, really. What is the purpose of the pen? to write? What is the purpose of a car? To drive to work, from A to B. What is the purpose of an airplane? To fly it so you can go long distances. Purpose of a bicycle. Exercise, again, you can use it to go to one place to another. Purpose of a ruler. So you can measure and also draw straight lines. Everything, if you look into everything, it has a purpose. And likewise, the child of Adam, myself, I have a purpose too. And so what is my purpose? My purpose is, of course, to be grateful to the one who created me, and that is the Creator, Allah. Now, Allah is an Arabic word, and see, Allah is, the word Allah is Arabic, and it means the one who deserves all worship. Yeah, the one who deserves all worship. Allahu Akbar means God is the greatest. Also, there are few meanings to the word Allah. So one is the one who deserves all worship. Yeah, Allah means the one who deserves all worship. Allah, the one true God, the one true God. Yeah, and I'm not talking about God of the gaps. There's no such thing as God of the gaps. And there are no, and I'm not talking about Jesus being the God. No prophet. Prophet is a prophet. Jesus, peace be upon him, was a prophet. And so let's continue with the evolution topic. I would like to discuss irreducible complexity. Newton, one of the most distinguished popular scientists in history, once said that the physical laws he had uncovered, or actually discovered, revealed the mechanical perfection of the workings of the universe to be akin to a watch wherein the watchmaker is God. This analogy became mainstream when scientist William Paley published a book detailing in 1802. The argument states that you could compare a watch to life forms here on Earth. When you look at a watch, it has many different moving parts and components. If you were to be walking around a park and found a watch on the ground, you could clearly tell that it was built by someone. If you argue that it was always there, and formed naturally over millions of years, others would call you a little insane, mad. The watch clearly came from a designer. Someone made the watch. Why is it any different with human life? Humans, as well as the many other life forms on Earth, have complex, intricate systems. So, example, we have been given the digestive system. We have been given the endocrine system, the central nervous system. And the digestive system, it's designed. Even, for argument's sake, if you were to say natural selection, so over time, came up with the digestive system, but it is still designed. That's what I am saying. Everything in the human body is designed. I mean, look at, if you take humans collectively, if you want to analyze, what I'm trying to say is, all humans have two eyes, one nose, two ears, two hands, two legs. It's designed. The heart is designed. The bones inside a human body, the skeleton, the earthly body skeleton, it's designed. So humans, the children of Adam, just to quickly summarize, have complex systems. These intricate systems, complex systems, point to some type of designer, and to argue they formed naturally over many years is as crazy as saying a watch could do the same. Not only this, the watch is made up of many different parts, some of which would be obsolete without the others. The motor wouldn't turn without the battery, the watch hand wouldn't turn without the motor, etc. This is known as something called irreducible complexity, meaning that without all the parts of the system combined as one, the system becomes useless. Irreducible complexity is highlighted in many biological organisms on Earth, planet Earth. The main premise behind irreducible complexity is if something is taken out of the system fails to continue working. Amazing. So, example, unfortunately, when you look at a child or a person and with autism, and you ask a psychologist what is autism, and they would, amongst many things, they would say, well, something is missing in the brain, or the brain actually doesn't function normally as normal people. So that's autism. So something is missing, the brain is not wired properly, etc., etc. And there you go. If your brain, something is missing, then you cannot actually think properly, and so this is what irreducible complexity. So therefore your brain doesn't work. If something is missing, your brain doesn't work, and therefore you are psychologically challenged. So you are suffering from a psychological condition, be autism, schizophrenia, bipolar. And so this is what irreducible complexity is. Like the watch example is a good one. If something is missing from the watch, or let's take a car. So you have the steering wheel, and you have the gearbox, and you have the gears, and you have the engine, but something is missing from the engine, then the car wouldn't work properly, or wouldn't work at all. Irreducible complexity. Irreducible complexity is if something is taken out of the system fails to continue working. This would mean the system could not have been built in successive modifications, as everything is needed at once in order to make it function properly. Therefore, it's all or nothing. Either everything is there and the system works, or something is missing and it doesn't work. There is no in between. Charles Darwin really didn't know what he was talking about. A book called I'm reading a book called Darwin, What Darwin Got Wrong, by Jerry Fodder, and basically Jerry Fodder says that no one knows how the phenotypes evolved, meaning, I mean, how did they actually change, or how did they actually, came into existence? And the answer for the Darwinists would say, well, the primordial soup, and then, you know, um, you know, chemicals bubbling together in hot water, and then you got the first cell, and then multicell, and no, that's it just that is just impossible. If you read, if you actually go to Discovery Science YouTube channel and listen to Behe and Stephen Meyer, and you would understand. I mean, Stephen Meyer wrote a great book, Signature in the Cell, and I think he said something like, for a cell to create a protein, it needs to create 20 amino acids, something like that, very technical. And basically, in Stephen Meyer, the author of Signature in the Cell, says it's, natural selection can't do it. There are so many. There's David Belinsky says as well, natural selection can't do it. And what do we have? Signature in the Cell, Stephen Meyer, Behe as well. Natural selection can't do it. And this is, I mean, why am I talking about evolution, and specifically Darwinian theory of evolution, which is based on assumptions, which is speculative within a probabilistic framework? It's just to tell you guys that, look, if you take Darwin's theory seriously, I mean, it's not a absolute fact. Darwin's theory is only a scientific working model, a mechanism, and Darwin says, natural selection is unguided, and we say no, it's not unguided, it's guided. There is process, there is design and process and purpose behind the natural mechanism. There is external intelligence, and the atheist and Darwinist and agnostics and evolutionists would take so this is the reason I am discussing evolution. So they would take the Darwinian theory of evolution, they would take the Darwinian theory of evolution, the Darwinists, atheists, they're like, all friends, and they would, use it for everything. So, all life just, came naturally, came into existence naturally. That's what they're trying to say, without any guided processes. They would take it as far as, so the Big Bang. We all know, and even scientists have said and are saying that the Big Bang happened approximately 13.7 billion years ago. And it is obvious that you need a uncaused supernatural being to cause something such as the Big Bang or the big explosion or the big expansion. And therefore, the universe, basically the universe had a beginning. And so the uncreated creator, Allah, caused the Big Bang to come into existence. Therefore, atoms, subatomic particles, space-time matter, and therefore existence itself to come into existence. And that's the thing. So what now they have done, like scientists like Alan Guth and his colleagues, they would go for the eternal inflation within a multiverse and many multiverses. And that's the thing, you cannot have eternal inflation, because eternal inflation is a fancy name for infinite number of universes, which leads to infinite regress, meaning it's unmathematical. And so you can't have it. And that's what they always do. You try to convince an atheist, a Darwinist, that, look, God is uncreated by definition, and they just don't want to know. And that's because they have made a choice, and their choice is basically, they have chosen arrogance, and therefore, with choosing arrogance, they have rejected the Creator Allah and Islam. And it is really sad for them, because they have no idea what they have done or what they are doing. Because one thing they don't know is that death is not the end of them. That is only the end of the test, because the earthly life is an examination. And yes, we are going through an examination right now, because the earthly life is an examination. And we don't die, we taste death. That's right. We don't die, we taste death. Now, this is why I'm talking about evolution, especially Darwinian theory of evolution. One thing I want to say is, look, evolution in general, it's biological change over time, meaning microevolution, that's microevolution is there, changes in a bacteria becoming resistant to antibiotics. I would say viruses becoming resistant to antibiotics. This is microevolution. Or again, an example of a microevolution is you have different kind of cats, but the common ancestor is a cat. You have different kind of flies, the common ancestor is a fly. You have different kind of dogs, the common ancestor is a dog. And that's microevolution, variation within the same species. So what I'm saying is, like, look, there's another topic within the evolution. What I want to talk about is similarities in the DNA means compatibility. So, like, the banana shares 60% DNA with a human. So that doesn't mean that my great grandmother or father was a banana, because that sounds ridiculous. it just, yeah, compatibility. So, when I eat the banana, I can digest the banana. That's all it is. And when the chimpanzee eats the banana, the chimpanzee can digest the banana. So the similarities is because of compatibility. So that the Creator Allah created us as such, so we could eat banana and apple and grapes, and so there is a sharing of the DNA, and so it's edible, and so we don't fall ill, and so we can digest the food. Because you see, if we go to really deep into science, physics, I mean, we have atoms. I mean, everything in the universe, the scientists say, is made up of atoms. But you see, there's two types of atoms. There's the animate atoms, and then there's the inanimate atoms. And what I'm trying to say is that a table is full of atoms. A table made of glass or made of wood is full of atoms. But if I start eating the table, which is made up of atoms, which is made up of glass or wood, then I would fall ill and probably die. I would not be able to digest the wooden table. I hope you understand my point. So, irreducible complexity is highlighted in many biological organisms here on Earth. The main premise behind irreducible complexity is if something is taken out of the system fails to continue working. Charles Darwin wrote in his book, I believe, if I am not mistaken, on the origin of species, if it could be demonstrated that any complex organ existed which could not possibly have been formed by numerous successive slight modifications, my theory would absolutely break down. This means that, based on what the founder of evolution himself stated, if something existed here on Earth which could not be explained by successive modifications over time, it would disprove the theory of evolution. And based on what we're about to go over, this would mean the theory has been disproven. While there are many examples of irreducible complexity in the biochemistry of humans, few examples, many times in evolutionary biology, these hard to cover topics are just briefly touched on. When they're questioned, poor explanations are given on how they formed. Yeah, so example, what they do, the Darwinists, so they would say, look at an ape, look at the the shape and the body of the ape or the chimpanzee, and then look at a human body and the shape, and so similar, they would see the similarities, and of course the similarities are there. And basically, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the term is homology. By the way, homology is an assumption. I've read it somewhere, or I've heard it on a YouTube video. Yes, Subur Ahmed he has a YouTube channel called Darwinian Delusions, and he has mentioned numerous times that Darwinian theory of evolution is speculative. It's based on assumptions within a probabilistic framework, and homology is an assumption. And so, if I remember, if I can recall, he said that the Darwinists, the evolutionists, will look at a chimpanzee or an ape and look at the human body, and then they will say, aha, look, there's similarities, so there must be a common ancestor. And that point is the assumption. That's what you have to visit Darwinian Delusions YouTube channel, and you will actually get the details. There is more. Subra Ahmed talks about orphan genes, that there is no similarities in regarding orphan genes between chimpanzee and humans. And also he talks about how there is the junk DNA, which is actually not junk, it's full of information. And there's this other person called Paul Nelson, and he talks about body plans, and they really go into technical details. And also Stephen Meyer. The reason I'm talking about evolution is that it is very important to learn this. All Muslims should be educated regarding that the Darwinian theory of evolution is speculative, is based on assumptions within a probabilistic framework. Also, that science, keeps changing. Science has paradigm shifts. Meaning, Newton said gravity is a pulling force. Einstein came along and said no to Newton, that Newton is wrong. And Einstein said gravity is a pushing force. And also Einstein thought the universe was eternal, and therefore Einstein theory, he had this theory called the steady state theory. And then Edwin Hubble said, no, I can see the stars moving away. I can see the red shift, meaning that the universe is expanding. And then some other two people, I can't remember their name, they were cleaning the big satellite dish, and there was this constant noise they couldn't get rid of. And then basically they realized it's the cosmic background radiation. And so using all that, the theoretical physicist, figured out the universe had a beginning 13.7 or 13.8 billion years ago. And so for the theist, for the believers in God, that was great news, or that is great news. But then the atheists, they didn't like this. And again, regarding the DNA, I think Francis Crick, the DNA, discoverers, they looked at the DNA, the double helix, and they said, whoa, that is like full of information. It's really coded. It has intelligence. The DNA itself is very intelligent. Where has all this intelligence come from? Regarding external intelligence. And so atheists, they're not having any of that. So some would say, well, aliens, left the DNA on planet Earth. I mean, we haven't come across any aliens yet. And then also you have Alan Guth, he would talk about his eternal inflation theory, which, like I said, is infinite number of universes. It's infinite regress. You can't have it. It's unmathematical. It's illogical, unmathematical, and illogical. And Lawrence Krauss, A Universe from Nothing. And what I see, especially in these particular atheists, Lawrence Krauss, Richard Dawkins, and the late Christopher Hitchens, and the people like Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris, is that they actually have God complex issues, and the God complex issues are such so they they don't like authority. They don't like anyone telling them what to do. What they forget is that they see God as another human being, I suppose, because that is wrong thinking. God is your creator and my creator. The creator Allah is your creator and my creator. We have no right to complain because we didn't create ourselves. It's impossible. We cannot create ourselves. That is just impossible. For even to think, it's absurd. So I'll give you an example. Look, average human body has 40 trillion cells. 40 trillion cells. I mean, first you have to clone all these cells, but then you're gonna. All these cells will be in petri dishes, yeah, in laboratories, in fridges. How would you, take 40 trillion cells and put them together and then form a human being? You see my point? It's absurd. It's impossible. We didn't create ourselves. The Creator Allah created me. The Creator Allah created you and me and the entire existence. And if whoever you are, and if you are in the position of agnosticism, atheism, it's a choice. That's right. Free will allows autonomy, and autonomy gives you choices. And agnosticism is a choice, atheism is a choice, non-belief in God is a choice. And also to my non-Muslim friends, brothers and sisters in humanity, the followers of Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, basically non-Muslim ideology, that Islam is the intellectual choice. Islam is the intellectual choice. Look into Islam. So why Islam? Look into Islam. Read the Quran in a language you understand. Read the Quran in a language you understand with an objective mind. Leave your subjective experiences, your subjective emotions, like in the past. Yeah. Read the Quran with an objective mind, with a neutral mind, without emotional issues. Because most of the time the atheists, they have emotional issues in regards to believing in the Creator Allah. But yes, so Islam is the intellectual choice, and Islam is perfect, and Islam is the correct guidance from the Creator Allah. Supporting literature you can read is Hamza and Yazot's book, The Divine Reality. And also, like I said, it is important to talk about Darwinian theory of evolution. Visit Sabur Ahmed's Darwinian Delusions YouTube channel, and so you will know that, using, Darwinian theory of evolution to make a decision, which is a choice, to reject Islam, is a very foolish, unwise thing to do. So, thank you for listening, and I would really be grateful if you could share my podcasts to everybody you know. And I have written many books. One is called What is Permanent Success, and another one is called Evolution, True or False, You Decide, and also Poems for Your Soul. You can buy my books from Amazon.com, and I would welcome comments. My YouTube channel is Motivated Muslim, and yes, God complex issues. So like the question, why did God create me? I didn't say I wanted to be created. That is a God complex issue question. And basically you are being ungrateful. When someone says, why did God create me? I wish I was never born. That is, you are actually being ungrateful to the Creator Allah. Because the reason the Creator Allah created us, so the Creator Allah can give us the ultimate gift. And the ultimate gift is going to paradise. The ultimate gift is getting a place, a beautiful, spacious garden, Jannah, spacious garden, yeah, a beautiful place in paradise. Another reason the Creator Allah created us, especially with free will, so the Creator Allah can see who is grateful to the Creator Allah. And that gives, the person who is grateful to the Creator Allah, meaning they choose, and free will allows choices, and it is a choice. The one who chooses to be Muslim, and the one who chooses to be Muslim, therefore chooses to worship the Creator Allah. The Creator Allah just loves that. The Creator Allah loves the one who chooses to worship the Creator Allah. Look, the Creator Allah says in the Quran, there is no force in religion, meaning the Creator Allah will not force you to become a Muslim. A Muslim means to worship the Creator Allah. One of the meaning of being a Muslim is to one of the meaning of being Muslim within Islam is to worship the Creator Allah. Yeah, look, I am a Muslim, and I am not better than you. No. Dear atheists friends, dear non-Muslim friends, I am a Muslim and I am not better than you. Never. Me being Muslim, to me, is so I am choosing to worship my Creator, Allah. My Creator and your Creator is the same Creator, Allah. And Allah means the one who deserves all worship. So just to quickly summarize the ending, me being Muslim, to me is so I am worshipping the Creator Allah. in the hope one day the Creator Allah will give me permission to enter Jannah, to enter paradise, in the hope that the Creator Allah, with Allah's mercy, gives me a place in paradise. Allahu Akbar. God is the greatest. Please don't take my words the wrong way. Please don't use my podcast out of context. Like I said, these podcasts is to give advice to the Muslims and give dawah invitation to the non-Muslims. And I have said something else I would like to add. Love for others what you want for yourself. Love for others what you want for yourself. And like I said, I want to go to paradise one day, and I want that for everyone. Thank you for listening, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you very much for listening.